Okay, I think that's good. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing? How are things going? How has your day been? It's about 4:30 for me, which, as far as I'm concerned, is stream time. I'm very excited today because I happen to have some fun things to build today and some fun models to paint. Um, I've talked about it before on stream, and I finally decided to buy them for myself. I recently passed a certification test that was very difficult for me, at the very least, and so I'm just, excited to have done so. And so, as a way of rewarding myself, I went ahead and bought some of my favorite units in all of 40k. So, yes, I do. The Death Shroud Terminators. I am a big fan of the Death Guard and a big fan of what they look like and kind of their aesthetic. And add to the whole plague and disease and rot thing, I'm also really, really big on like Grim Reapers and Scythes, because at one point I was an edgy high schooler. So actually I need to change the date and the time for this one. Death Shroud Terminators. Actually, no, I'm gonna have a bit of fun with this thing. Stinky Scythe Men. There we go. We're gonna change that. So, I was inspired by repainting the combat patrol I did for the Death Guard and getting to see the high contrast typhus that I made. So I'm really excited to work on these guys. They're going to get the same treatment. They're going to get the high contrast look that is going to make them really stand out on the field. And I'm going to put them with typhus, and they're just going to become this horrible hurricane of fetid blender energy. And I can't wait. I think I'm going to call them the Slap Chop, because, horrible product. But anyway, I've got these guys ready to go. I've got the sprues right here in front of me, which I don't think you can see. Wow, there they are. There's not actually a whole lot to them, so this shouldn't take too long. And maybe I'll even be able to get into the actual, like, priming them and whatnot today. Who knows? All I know is right now I am beside myself with excitement. I've wanted to paint these models for a long time. I'm really glad I'm getting the chance to, and I'm going to get to it in a second, okay? So the first thing it wants me to do is choose whether I want to make a Death Shroud Champion or a Death Shroud Term. Actually, no, I can keep my glasses on for this, because I don't need to be that far away from the mic or whatnot. So, looking at the instrucciones, they've got either the Death Shroud Champion or the Death Shroud Terminator, right? And from what I can tell based on looking at him, the Champion's got like the really cool huge horn coming out of his shoulder, and he's got a bare head, which sounds like it'll be a lot more fun to paint, so I might get on that versus just the hood and the regular. It looks like he's also got a slightly different scythe. Yeah, his is more curved. It looks like it's more mastercrafted versus just kind of pokey. So I'm going to have some fun with that. The first two pieces I need to put together... Oh, it looks like his head is actually going to have to go inside the model before I can even put it together. So I'm not going to be able to paint that independently, which kind of sucks, but you do with what you can. So they want part... And this is where everything slows down. They want part 36, 31 and 36 to go on with this. So we're going to do that. We're going to get part 31, which is this one right here. Man, I'm so excited to finally own these guys. And wait a minute, I just realized my other light is way too high, and I'm having a bit of a struggle with the visuals. So we're going to bring the light way down, not into the camera. That'd be a bad idea. Come on, light, you can do it. There we go. And now I can really see what I'm doing. And we're just going to grab that. Goodbye! And the other one I need is part 36, which is this one right here. Oh man, I can't wait to do this. I love the Cataphracti armor. It's not like... I still love the original Indomitus armor more, but the Cataphracti stuff is so good. And I can choose between heads... 32 right here, or 33 right there. And I think because he's supposed to be the leader, I'm going to go ahead and give him the super special head, and the one with the actual face on it. because that is a cool little thing to me. So first, I'm gonna have to shave down all these extra flashing that I've got. And the way I've been kind of taught to do this, the way I've seen people do it online, is just to take your hobby knife and scrape it down. And there we go. Looks pretty much good as new. And actually something else I can do, because there's nothing else in focus here, is I can switch it over to the autofocus. And even though there is a lot of light, and the light is definitely going to saturate things out a bit, it's not going to be too bad, hopefully. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these mold lines as best I can. And actually, to be honest, after having put together the Devastator unit that I did, seeing the vast difference in mold lines and just sculpting as we moved into 8th edition is blowing my mind, because there were so many issues with the Devastators and their sculpting, and the kind of mold slippage I was seeing, and all the other little bits. It was definitely more of a mess, and even those weren't that bad. So it's easy to see why people have come to appreciate the newer 40K sculpts, and it doesn't really, there he goes again, it doesn't really justify it, but I do definitely understand why it's become more expensive to produce these models, or to purchase these models, because the quality jump between, like, the Death Shroud Bodyguard that I'm putting together and, you know, the Tactical Squad, or even the Devastators, is night and day. And I think those models are really good, but the level of detail in terms of comparison is completely unmatched. These guys are just oozing with detail. There's so much more going on with them. There's so many more finer details on them. It's just impressive seeing how far Games Workshop has come. And for the most part, when I do this, I try and have some kind of tray to catch all of the plastic shavings that are coming off of my hands and coming off of the model. And so I don't know if you can really see it, but I've got the top of my wet palette down here. And I'm using it to kind of catch any of the flashing that falls off of this guy. And hopefully it'll catch most of it, and I can just toss it in the garbage. If not, it's going to end up having to go basically on the desk, which sucks, but not too terribly. This is a hobby desk, this is a craft area, so I'll just hit it with a hairdryer to knock it on the ground, and I'll sweep it up later. I'm the only one that comes down here, so I don't have to worry about it getting in any of the animals, you know, lungs or anything. So yeah. Oh man. The level of detail on these lads. I know I'm really late to the party, but I frankly don't care. These are just so cool. I will say what has tickled me the most is with the dynamic posing that they have on them, just how bizarre the individual pieces look. Because, like, if you look at it, this is a strange piece. This is not, like, a normal looking thing, right? You wouldn't look at this out in the wilderness and go, oh yeah, that's, you know, that's the torso. But apparently that's what it is. There's his back, there's his front, there's the shelf his head's supposed to rest on. Actually, how am I supposed to put that head in there? Is it just supposed to slide in there? Oh yeah, because it's got that little hole in the back, and then this little nubbin goes in the hole. Now, something that I didn't realize was as bad as it was is I'm running out of this Tamiya extra thin cement. So these might be the last models that I can really hit with this stuff, because just the amount of it that I've got left is rapidly dwindling. So here's to hoping I do a good job. I think of all of the models I could have had to kind of finish off this line, I'm pretty happy it's these guys. Actually, no. Is it supposed to be... Oh, he's supposed to be more turned. And... Oh, yes. There we go. Now he slid back far enough. There we go. I don't know. Is that going to get into focus, or am I just going to have to fight my... That's so weird. Okay. There we go. That's better. I don't know why autofocus wasn't working, but now it is, and now we're good. Now, something else that I think is kind of fun is, tells you how boring I am, is taking a little bit more of that Tamiya extra thin and getting it in these little seams, and then just letting it kind of fuse the plastic together. Because when you push on it, it actually does mush it, and then you can take a hobby knife and just kind of scrape it together. And it will usually do a decent job of getting rid of, or at least minimizing the gap there. So it makes it a little more difficult to distinguish visually. But yeah, there he is. He has a face. Now, what's supposed to happen next is this part is supposed to go on just like this, and now we have an upper torso. So I'm going to go ahead and hope I didn't get it stuck. Nope, not stuck. I'm going to go ahead and put some more of this Tamiya extra thin cement on the lad. I've even already got a name for these guys, since they come in packs of 3, and, you know, they're just so ridiculous and over the top. I'm calling them my 3 Stooges, and they're going to be, I think they're going to be Lawrence, oh my god, I had it. It was Larry, Curly, and Moe, but I was going to have a lot of fun with it, and I don't remember what they were. Because I wasn't just going to call them Larry, Curly, and Moe, because that's just a bit too on the nose. Okay, there we go. We're going to pinch that seam together, so that way, I know it's going to be covered by a pauldron, but it'll get a better fuse this way, I believe, if all of the plastic in that seam fuses together. It was Marius, Lawrence, and I'm forgetting what I was going to call Curly, but it was something that you probably wouldn't have guessed. That's okay. But let's see, we're going to pinch that together. And apparently the next thing he gets is his leggies. So we're going to go ahead and do his leggies next. That's parts 37 and 38. Okay. Nyeh. Knock that off. And these are some really old Army Painter snips. They're actually in terrible condition. The fact that they don't have any divots in them is amazing, but the actual blades look really, really bad. And that's because I've treated them like crap. So, something I've been meaning to buy for myself, but I just haven't, have been a new pair of snips. Because I know that there are definitely some better ones made by better companies. Now, something that you're kind of supposed to do, as a rule of thumb, is to leave a decent amount of the sprue chunk still on there. And that way, it doesn't, like, tear off into the plastic and you're left with weird little divots. But in this case, I've left a huge chunk on, and this is a super dull knife. You can look, the tip's been chipped off because it's so old and there's been so much abuse. So what's going to happen instead is I can't just take it all off in one chunk. That's how you slice open your hand. I'm going to go ahead and shave this down bit by bit, and eventually there's not going to be enough stiffness and resistance on the part that I'm cutting off, and now it comes off really smooth. Because if I were to try to cut that all off in one fell swoop, I would have had this huge chunk that would have just fought me and fought me and fought me until the blade skipped and I sliced my finger again. I actually have a lot of micro scars on my thumb right here from being way too ambitious and slicing open my hand many, many times. And I think I got those from working on the Among Us Votan that I no longer have. Because I needed to cut them off at the wrist. I needed to get the imposters to have the really neat, you know, mutant faces that I gave them. There was a lot of things I did to those models that required sculpting, and I just wasn't very good at it at the time. So, they just ended up, they looked really good, don't get me wrong, but my thumb did not. So I guess it was worth it. I know that there's someone who bought them that liked the idea so much that they continued to expand on it. And about a month after receiving them, they started messaging me on Reddit being like, hey, what scheme did you use for these guys? How did you get these colors? Because I've bought more and I want to match them. So at the very least, you know, the scheme lived on, I guess. Okay, we're going to whittle that down a little bit. Whittle that down a little bit. Just a bit. I don't want to get rid of the sharp edge just too much, but I want to make sure that it doesn't have like weird plastic flashing on it. Other leg. Yeah, I used to own a copy of these models, but I bought them as part of a lot, and so they were already painted. And the person who painted them, he played Warhammer, not quite competitively, but definitely a lot more competitively than I do. And so he was more worried about getting his guys up to tabletop standard. And my buddy, who was kind of like the middleman, who told me about the lot, showed him some of my painting stuff, and he said, "You're working too hard. Like you're spending way too much time on these models that don't need to be that detailed." And it's like, but that's where I get the joy from. So, you know, he had his own version of fun. I had my own version of fun, but his stuff was very sloppily painted. Well, not sloppily. It was painted to be decent. And at the time, I didn't really have the confidence to strip a mini down and repaint it. And he'd also done some decent terraining on it and basing, which I didn't want to mess up by putting it in like an alcohol bath. So I ended up kind of being okay with them. And then when I eventually sold the Death Guard army, because I was never playing it and I never wanted to, I sold that along with them. And was, you know, it was one of those good riddance things. Now you just slot right in here, right? Yeah. It's like a puzzle piece. But I still had that, you know, strong desire to paint the Death Shroud Terminators because they're such cool models. So, I now finally have my chance to, and I'm ecstatic. Because I just love how these guys look. Now, for anyone who's interested in the lore about the Death Shroud Terminators, they are originally, in the Horus Heresy, they were Mortarian's trusted bodyguards, right? Like, they were the guys that followed him around, that were his closest confidants, outside of the first company captain, which was Typhus. And they were experts with these scythes and these plague gauntlets that they had. And there wasn't a whole lot about them in the Horus Heresy. They were mentioned very explicitly in Flight of the Eisenstein, which was like the 5th book in the Heresy, as they were establishing the Death Guard via Nathaniel Garrow and his, you know, flight back to Terra to warn them of the betrayal. But beyond that, there wasn't much to them. And it's like, okay, cool. They have power scythes. They are heavily cloaked. They've got this neat look about them, but beyond that, man. But it's just the fact that now they're these Plague Grim Reapers that I just think is so cool. We're gonna put that back in here and hope that that sticks better. Yeah, there we go. Pardon the blowing, I don't mean to blow into the mic. And there we go. Now he's got 2 leggies. And so I'm gonna set him here and hope he doesn't fall apart. Okay, the next thing he needs is piece number 39, which is this big cloak part. Now, something else I did was, when I was really heavily into the 3D printing and I didn't own any of that Death Guard stuff, was I found an STL online and 3D printed 3 of those to be my own spoke Death Shroud bodyguard. And to be honest, the sculptor did their best, and free is free, but honestly, the models look like garbage. It was a combination of the paint job and the posing was no good. They weren't very pretty models, and I was less than ecstatic about owning them. So I think I ended up giving those away as part of another lot, because I was like, hey, if you buy these, I'll even throw these guys in with them. So hopefully they're making someone really happy. But I saw them, I assembled them, I painted them, and I wasn't happy with them, and I never even used them, I don't think. I just did not like how they looked. Eventually, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get another set of Death Shroud because they're just such cool models. And I want more. Is that where you're... Okay, so you're going there. And you're going to attach there and there. Fantastic. But, I don't know if I'm going to 3D print them again. I know that there was another 3D printing group that I just found that actually did their own version of a couple of Death Guard units. And I'll be honest, those look pretty neat. Those might be the ones that I'll 3D print. And have them as like a band of roving, independent Death Shroud, as opposed to being stuck to Typhus. Because I think that's kind of what's happened now. Mortarian's become so big an entity that he doesn't need the Death Shroud anymore. So, in lore, I don't think he has them. I don't remember, because it's been a while since I've read Godblight and the Dark Imperium stuff. But, I just kind of think that they'd be better off on their own. Okay, that's good for now. The next thing is going to be piece 41. Which is... They've got two pieces here. I can either do 42, which is the smaller one, or I can do 41, which has that giant spike on it. And I think for the sake of both badassery and to show his rank, he's going to get the giant Nurgle spike. And honestly, I was considering doing a detachment with some Nurgle demons in it. Partially because I want a great unclean one, and that would give me a great opportunity to paint one. But also because it would allow me some flexibility, and it would be a start for like an Age of Sigmar army, should I ever want to get into Age of Sigmar. So that was a possibility. I don't know if that's going to happen. But if I do, I know for a fact I'm going to proxy the Beasts of Nurgle, because the real ones look freaking stupid. If you haven't seen them, the actual models for Beasts of Nurgle are quite silly looking, and they've got a very dopey appearance. So, and they're also expensive. So I am not going to be wasting my money on Beasts of Nurgle, even if they are incredibly neat as a model, because they constantly restore back to their full health, which is like the most awful thing in the world. If you don't kill them, that is. If you manage to take them out in one turn, then yeah, you got them. But if you don't, at the end of, I don't know if it's every turn or their turn, their wounds go back to max. And I know for a fact that they're one of the most frustrating things to fight in Darktide. Oh, look at that. So good. So good. And they did it on purpose. Like, they noticed how dopey the original models looked, and so they tried to make it as threatening as possible, and I think they succeeded on all levels. My understanding is that when, like, the director came by and saw what it looked like as it was being rendered, they said, like, that's the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. Great job. And I feel like that's the right approach to take to a Beast of Nurgle. Okay. Yeah, there we go. And I kind of love how their squatness works here. They're not quite squat enough to be, you know, a game piece like the old ones were, but at the same time, they're definitely squat enough to, like, not quite look like they're disproportionate. Because that's another thing I noticed when I was looking at the models, is that for some of the 3D sculpts they've done, they've made them too, I mean, in my opinion, they've made them too long-limbed, and they've put them on this really weird scale, and it makes them look too thin and wispy. So the fact that these Death Shroud are so bulky is another reason why I like them. They look like I should be terrified to see them move at uncommonly fast speeds, as opposed to the other ones that I see online, which are a little more lithe and spindly. And so the fact that they can move fast doesn't strike me as unbelievable as like these guys doing it. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and hit that. Take off that little bit. Yeah, I cannot wait to paint this thing. I love, and the fact that these are called Man Reapers. It's such a great name for a weapon. I know it's just a power scythe or whatever, but it's called a Man Reaper. How can you not love that naming? Okay. And it's even funnier because scythes are terrible weapons. I know they're like one of the coolest things in fantasy when you talk about weaponry, just because of the imposing physical look of them. But they are an absolutely terrible weapon. They're awkward, they're clumsy. There's a lot of ways to get them caught up so that you don't really have to deal with them. They're not great for combat, but they have such an imposing look about them, and they just look so freaking cool. It's like, I don't care if they're bad. Being in giant Terminator plate probably isn't the best thing for combat either, but it looks cool. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and hit that. And then we're gonna take it and mess up where I'm trying to put it. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So that's slotted in right there. What I'm going to do here is get as much off of the brush as possible and just kind of let it fill in that gap and fuse all that plastic together. Because for those who don't know, that's what this stuff does, is it's not actually a glue in that it's a binding agent. It actually melts down this specific style of plastic and bonds it together at a chemical level. So that's what I'm going for. So now he's got his scythe. So these next bits of instructions inform me on how to do it if I wanted to just make him Death Shroud Terminator 1, and that's not the case. So it looks like they've got a whole bunch of accoutrements to put on him, which include piece 43 and piece 40, which are, I guess, the top back plate, which has all the horns and whatnot and bone coming out of the top plate of his Terminator armor. And piece 40, it looks like, is the plague gun. It's like his little plague spewer right here. So that's what's going to go on next. And I think, actually, I might have a drill bit thin enough. Whoops, there it went. To actually drill a hole in this little thing to make it look a little bit better. And if push really comes to shove, actually with how narrow that thing gets, I don't know if I feel comfortable doing that. Because that's a very narrow gun. So I don't know if I really want to do that. What I might do instead, and what probably is the more prudent idea, is I might just hollow it out a little bit with the hobby knife. And then like paint that little hollowed bit black. And that way it will read as though it were an actual drilled out barrel. Okay, we're gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Okay. There we go. That's about as good as that's gonna get. Ow, ow. And then I'm going to just dig out the center. Actually, wait a minute. Let's look. I took out my WoW stick out here, didn't I? I did not take out the WoW stick. Okay. Let's see. How deep? Wow. Oh, that's cutting it real close. If I wanted to do it that way. Hey, Ohana Hobby Workshop, how's it going? Thank you for the raid. I can't believe that worked. My notifications have not been working for a while. So, I'm glad that I tried to fix them a little bit and do more fun, dumb stuff with them. And it seems like that worked. Howdy, howdy, howdy. How's it going? How was your stream? I've been working on taking certification courses all day, so I didn't really get a chance to catch it. How did your stream go? What were you up to? Okay. I'm debating. Do I want to screw this with a WoW stick? Like, I'm scared. Fortune favors the bold. So I'm going to use the WoW stick, and I'm going to put a little more pressure on it, and hopefully I won't damage this thing. Okay. That seemed to work okay. I'm going to hollow it out a little further because it was off center, because of course it was. And there we go. Yeah, that actually looks pretty okay. There's a little bullet hole in there now. And now I can go back to far less stressful things of removing the mold lines. So I just got these Death Shroud Terminators today. They're a model that I've wanted for a long time. So I'm taking today to assemble them. And if I'm lucky, which it's looking less and less likely given how much time I'm spending cleaning up these models. I was going to start priming them so I could start painting them in a high contrast style, similar to the high contrast typhus that I did a little while ago. But that looks like it's not going to happen today. That might have to be a tomorrow thing. And that's perfectly okay. Because I'm just excited to have these guys. I cannot wait to paint them. They're going to look so good when I'm done with them. If I don't take my finger off first. Okay, there we go, there we go, there we go. Let's see, does I need to do any more of the mold lines? Is there anything else? Oh, I guess I can get right in here a little bit better. Yeah. Now, something that I'm really bad about, that is always going to prevent me from being like the bestest I can beest, is I like assembling the whole thing all at once. And I know for a fact that that limits my ability as a painter because I end up... Oh, it fits like a cap! There are going to be certain parts I cannot hit, and so the shading is just going to be kind of unrealistic, I guess you want to call it. Or not lifelike, I don't know what the proper term is going to be. But... for what I do and the display work that I try and work to, it's going to be fine. Okay. So let's see. I forgot which way it went on. Was it? It wasn't this way. It was the other way? This is what I get for taking it off. I feel like it was... nope, it wasn't this way. It was the other way. There we go. Yeah! I figured it out eventually. I have an education degree. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit more just in the gaps to really try and make sure that this thing is bonding well to the plastic. And see, this is something else I tend to do when I'm unsure, is I'll just flood it with liquid cement and hope that it gets it there. There he goes. And then the next thing is going to be an arm. So I guess I'm going to go ahead... get the arm in here, and if I recall right, it's kind of couched and at an angle, which is perfect. Just like that. Yeah, there we go. He's getting closer to being done. So the next thing it says to do is I can either just put like a clenched fist there for his right hand, or I can put the clenched fist holding the bells. So I think I gotta go with the bells. This is gonna be my sergeant for these guys. He's gonna be the one right next to Typhus. I've gotta go a little hard with this guy. Okay, I can go like, yeah, just like that. And I mean, he's only going to get put in like casual tournament play at best, so I'm not super worried about WYSIWYG. That's not something I'm very interested in. I'm most likely not even going to play with these guys in tournament. I'm far more down for casual play amongst friends. Though I did find out recently that my local game store was doing like a 1,000-point tournament soon, and I'll be honest, I'm a wee bit tempted. I'm a wee bit tempted. Unfortunately, I think it's with like new armies only, so they're kind of forgiving on the paint, but you gotta have new models that were bought at the start of the year. And I don't have that. I've got a combat patrol, and I've got these guys. Those are the only models I have for the Death Guard that are this recent. Everything else has been like old model Imperial Fist stuff. So, I don't think I can enter, which is absolutely fine. It just means I'll have to continue buying until I have 1,000 points of Death Guard to play a little more informally with some lovely people. But there we go. I think that's about good. I think that's about good. Gonna shave that down a little more. I know I'm quibbling over some very tiny detail, but that's okay. We're gonna hit the little curvy area on the back where it's gonna slot into his gauntlet, or into his forearm gauntlet. I don't know what to call it. But that's gonna go in just like that. And wow, that's a very precise fit, which I guess makes sense though, because the model is sumptuously detailed. So it makes sense that it's going to be a very tight fit. Okay, a little bit more in there. I'm not so sure about this connection, so I'm actually going to flood the area a bit. Put a little bit more in there. Yep, okay, there we go. I'm pressing it together. I'm seeing some of it ooze back out. That's probably a good sign. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Is this guy done? No, he's still got some bits to put on his back. So I can either put another plague spewer on him, or I can put a full gauntlet on there. And since he's a sergeant, I'm going to go ahead and put the other plague spewer on there. Because, you know, he should be fully equipped. He should have all the cool stuff as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to get another plague spewer off of the piece, off of the sprue. What else do they have on him? It looks like 51 and 50 are two little smoke trails that are also going to belong on his back. And that's going to be fun too, because normally I kind of do a real sloppy slapdash job with the smoke trails. But again, we're going for quality with these gentlemen. So I'm going to try and make sure I do a much more detailed cut and paint on these guys. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and gently shave off that bit. And then I'm going to try one more time to see if I can drill a hole that's actually in the center. I mean, based on this, the answer is going to be no, but I can at least hollow it out just a little more. Uh-oh, this is coming loose. See, I really should just buy a new one of these, because I'm getting to the point where it's getting so unstable that I'm going to have a mechanical failure and hurt myself. So please, guys, don't be like me. Be smart with your equipment. Be safe with your equipment. Don't be a goober. Okay. And again, doesn't need to be deep. Not looking for too much depth. This is a very tiny model. And the more I kind of push it, and the more I kind of test the fates, the more likely it is that this thing is going to have a mechanical failure and hurt me. Okay, let's get some of that off. Some of the mold lining. A little bit of the mold lining down there. Oh dear, this is a tiny piece, which I cannot believe they actually included a little bitty hole in. Okay, let's go ahead and knock off that bit of sprue. That actually came off really nicely. And now I can just glue this little bit onto his forearm. And I think for this guy, I might do some custom basing, because, again, these are some of my favorite models. I gotta make them look the part, right? This little bit is gonna go right over, yeah, I think. Yeah, just like that. It's gonna fit right on just like that, and I think, oh, no, he's not done. I keep forgetting about his smoke. Is there any way I can put him right there? Actually, we're gonna make him face the palette camera. There you go. Now he's looking in your direction, in the corner. Okay. Go ahead and shave off some of that little sprue bit. Scrape it down. Oh, that's a fly. That's what that little dude over there is. That's a fly. That one's actually pretty good. I don't want to shave off any of the fly. I guess that's kind of the good news about Death Guard stuff, is that if you leave any chunks on there, it just looks like they belong, right? Just extra little horns or mutations. See that one? Good to go. That one good to go. They did the studio that I'm talking about that has the other Death Shroud. They also have a really cool Demon Prince that I can use that's modeled after the current one, but it's not like a one-to-one of it. So I feel like I could do some neat stuff with that one too. He's really big and bloated, and he looks like a typical Death Guard demon. So I wasn't originally going to have a Demon Prince in my army, but it's kind of hard to say no with how cool that model looks. Though I suppose at the same time, I've got enough HQs. I don't need another one. That's more just wishful thinking. So that plague bit is going to come out of him like that. And the other one comes out of his back tube. So we're going to need to put another one in his back tube. That's going to go right in there, make all that mess. And how do they got that? That one's just coming off at the same angle, right? So this is just going to go right in there, just like that. And there we go. Other than putting him on a base, he is done. Now, one thing I can do, and one thing I'm actually going to do, is I don't really want to put him on a base just yet. So I'm going to drill a hole in his foot and attach him to an old piece of chopstick that I have, that I've put a toothpick in. Not a toothpick. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to hit the mic. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. But a paper clip in, so that I don't have to put him on a base yet, and I can continue to paint him. There we go. Also, if you don't have one, go ahead and get yourself a wow stick. This is an amazing tool. This one can go right here. Yeah, just like that. Oops, just like that. But I'm going to have to glue it on, because otherwise he's not going to stick. That can go back there. Where's my super glue? I'm going to shake up and mix the super glue, which seems to have gotten a little bit of schmeckis stuck on the top. So one of the biggest battles I always have is with, like, the nubbin on the top of this. It always gets contaminated and gets a lot of gross stuff on it. And it just increasingly gets worse and worse over time. So it's kind of become my life goal to reduce that to the best of my ability. Okay, that's just going to go in there. And I'm just going to lay him down gently, because I'm not super worried about the angle it takes. I just want that to dry. So that's one done. On to the next one. Who's the next one? Death Shroud Terminator 2. Well, that makes sense. He's the second in line. So we are now going to be looking at pieces 1, 2, and 4. Potentially piece 3, because I can choose to either have the big old horn, or I can have the chainmail veil, which honestly I like more. I'm going to do the chainmail veil. Always thought that looked real neat. So we're going to do that. We're going to do piece 1, which is this one. That can drop off. And piece 4. Oh, and this one's got the gross tentacles growing out of it. Whoop, there it went. Oh, goodness, it's on the floor. I got it. I can go right there. There we go. And let's go ahead and get scraping, shall we? So yeah, like I said, big fan of the Death Guard. I became a bigger fan of the Death Guard after reading the Horus Heresy, because, well, when I first got into this hobby, I kind of thought the Death Guard were disgusting, and I wanted nothing to do with them. I didn't like the fact that they were so over the top with the rotting and the pustules and everything else that just made them kind of gross to look at. And it took a little while to turn me around on it. And what eventually did it was Midwinter Minis had a video where he speed painted the Death Guard that came out of the first Strike box, which was like the original lowest end starter box for Warhammer, right? In 8th edition. And there we go. And I got that as part of like a promotion, because I offered to email Games Workshop for my school and say, hey, I've got some kids who are interested in starting a club. Would you be interested in giving us some starter material? And unfortunately, that kind of fell through. The students who were interested just kind of backed away, I guess, lost interest. And of course, I think it was that year? I believe it was that year or the next year that the pandemic happened. And but Games Workshop had apparently seen the message, and so they sent me a whole bunch of stuff. They sent me some paints. They sent me some literature, which I think has been lost to the sands of time. But they also sent me the first Strike starter box. And This was before I was really at all into miniature painting or anything like that. So, I had a friend who was interested in starting up Warhammer. They wanted to learn how to play, they were fascinated by the armies and whatnot. And so we kind of split the box, and he went with the Death Guard, and he let me paint the Space Marines. And I think we played like the demo games from it, and it was like, that's okay, that's fine, whatever. Wasn't really my thing, and I didn't think much of it. But then I had another friend who was interested in getting into 40K, and his friends had kind of gotten him into it, so he had, through very little effort on his own, acquired a very small AdMech army. And one thing led to another, and here I am, I think like 5-6 years later. So that's that. But one part of it was eventually just kind of falling in love with the Death Guard and how gross they were. I watched Midwinter Mini's video and was impressed with how good they could look with how little effort was actually required. And I speed painted them up, made them look really gross and yucky. And as my buddy told me, it must have been like really cathartic after being so prim and proper with both the Tau, who I had started with, and the Imperial Fists, who I kind of moved on to. And I mean, I had to agree, it was really fun being able to paint sloppy and it still looked good. Okay. I think by and large, this is all looking okay. Like, I don't need to have too much in here, I just need to hold on to this. So, I bought the Combat Patrol because I kind of wanted to have a bad guy to fight that wasn't just Space Marines or Tau, because that's all my buddy was getting to fight. And it just kept growing from there. But, yeah. And honestly, a big part of that was the fact that Typhus just looks so cool. The new model of him is such a good one. He was the big selling point for me with the Combat Patrol. To the point where I eventually sold my original Combat Patrol to someone else who wanted to get a Death Guard Combat Patrol but didn't have the time nor patience to paint it, so he wanted a pre-painted one. And I sold him my original one and bought a new one with that money specifically so I could repaint Typhus because I wanted to do the guy justice. And it kind of all worked out because the new Typhus that I have looks freaking amazing, and he's one of my favorite models. And he's inspired me to like do a whole lot more characters in that style of high contrast so they really stick out on the tabletop. And because of that, my skill as a painter has been improving. But that notwithstanding, Death Guard are really cool. I kind of wish they had better writing, because their main, I mean, because of how 40K is built in the narrative sphere, they're just kind of bad guys, right? Very few books go into seeing the story from their side. It's mainly just seeing how, you know, evil they are and how gross they are, which is fine, I guess. But I would love to, I think what I need to do is, there's a book by Chris Raitt, I believe, called Lords of Silence. And I think that's the book I need to read if I want to get a good idea of what life is like as a Death Guard Legionary. And there I am, not taking my advice. I should have shaved this down a little bit, right? Okay. So there we go. Get that down to relative flat. Work again on getting rid of these mold lines on this specific leg. Get rid of that one too. Get rid of that gross bit. That bit of sprue hanger on. Get rid of a little bit of the mold line right here because I think that's unnaturally raised. And that should be good. So now I can just attach the legs to the guy. Whoops. I accidentally knocked over my my plastic cement, but I've got so little bit of it that it didn't even spill, so bully for me. But yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and patch this right. Is this the right one? Did I grab the wrong leggies? Oh, no, I just had the wrong angle. There we go. Now the leggy will stick. Okay. I'm just gonna hold that and pinch that in tight for a second. And let that set, because I realize I have been moving rather quickly through some of this. I mean, like, look at this guy. Look at his face. Well, look at his lack of face. It's just a chain veil. That's so cool. I don't know about you guys, but that's freaking wild. And I think the other part of this that makes this so appealing to me is that, okay, how do you fit in? There we go. It snaps right in. Wow, that's ingenious. Ingenious. That makes them appealing to play is that, they aren't Space Marines. I've been playing the Imperial Fist now for, I think, 3 or 4 years, and while I do enjoy it because it's very straightforward, I think being able to play as, like, one of the bad guy factions is going to be real satisfying when I get there. Part 6. Part 6 is right here. It's his veil, or it's his cloak, which is another thing I love about these guys. The long cloaks that they wear, which make no sense on a Space Marine, but they look cool, and that's all that matters. Okay, I'll go ahead and shave that off. Shave that down. There was one more bit. I thought, there it is. I was about to say, I think there was one more bit that got chopped off. And I found it. Okay. Now this part is going to go over the shoulder like so, and that part, okay. Is that's supposed to line up under here too? Yeah, that makes sense. It's supposed to line up in the same place. So yeah, that makes sense. And everywhere else, it's just supposed to kind of free fall? Yeah, I guess so. And that's fine. So the thing I'm going to really connect it to is this right here. And then everything else will just kind of fall in place. And when it does that, because of the nature of this adhesive, I can just feed it into the gaps. And there we go. There we go. And I'm gonna have to hold this one again too. So I'll just chill here. I will just chill here. And there we go. Now that's the... Golly, look at that. It's such a good look. And there's another part that I always forget about is these little seams. Again, I want this to look good. And the way I'm going to make it look good is by getting a little bit of the adhesive in the seams and then pushing the seams together. Because what that does is, since it's melting the surface, is it pushes a little bit of it out and makes a goofy little ridge. And if I hold it there, it will eventually dry, and then I can shave it down, which will make it look a whole lot better. There we go. That'll dry down, I think. I hope. And that's what's going to make it look real good, is when that stuff eventually dries back down. Yeah, just like that. Okay, next thing on him is going to be his shoulders and then his back piece. So 8 and then 9. It's going to be this piece and then this piece. So we're going to snip that off. Snip that off. And yeah, that's kind of the thing, is I guess it's because I haven't really paid too much attention to the other Chaos Marine stuff, but I felt like that Cataphractii Terminator armor just wasn't seen much. And like, as I'm saying that right now, I realize that the Scarab Occult Terminators are all in Cataphractii Terminator armor. But for some reason, theirs looks really lame in comparison, at least to me. If you like the Scarab Occult Terminators, more power to you, but I just feel like they don't look that great. It might be because that all came out in like 7th edition, and so the sculpts look and feel older. and they have a much more static appearance to them. They're like in that weird place between the extreme posability, or not posability, the extreme poses of the Death Guard and the 8th edition models versus the more static poses of everything prior. That might be the reason, but I don't know, because I haven't been in the hobby long enough. I entered the hobby near the tail end of 8th edition, and the summer that I started doing this stuff was, I believe, the summer that Indomitus came out, so 9th edition. And so I'm used to these increasingly complex and increasingly detailed and dynamic sculpts that are being made into what are becoming like statues instead of game pieces. And that's cool and all, don't get me wrong, I love it. But the fact that they're becoming harder to transport and just kind of take care of is starting to become an issue for me. Because, like, I love the Mortarion model, but I'm terrified of bringing him to a tournament, you know what I mean? And for the longest time, one of his wings kept falling off. And so I just kind of let it stay off of him, and I would just reattach it and let gravity hold it in place when I take him out to play him. But eventually I kind of got over myself, and now it's been thoroughly glued on, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere now. Unless, you know, the model falls. Because that actually happened to me. I was transporting my models, and I was walking around with them in a toolbox. It was like one of those rolling toolboxes, and I hit a bump, and the handle skipped in my hand, and the entire box flew out of my hand and just crashed on the ground like a faceplant. And I was really, really sad, because that had a whole bunch of models in it. It had pretty much all of my Imperial Fist army, it had all of my Death Guard army, and that included like big expensive vehicles and Primarchs and all that stuff. So I was just really worried that I ruined, you know, hundreds of dollars worth of stuff. And thankfully, very thankfully, it had minimal damage. Mortarion's wing had fallen off, which I was expecting. But everything else, other than some chips to like the spikes on the Death Guard guys, was basically okay. So I couldn't complain too much, but it made me not want to use that system anymore, and I ended up giving that rolling toolbox system to my wife, so she could use it to store materials and merchandise for her convention supplies. Okay, so this guy is getting ever so closer to done. Now let's see. Does his okay, they're on this side. So this is gonna clip. Oh wow, it fits like a glove. Never mind then. I was gonna be like, I'm gonna have to fight this again. I'm gonna have to figure this out. But you know what? It'll be fine. And lo and behold, it was fine. Okay. Even more fine. Haha, it's perfect. There we go. You're gonna sit back down here for a second, because I need to look at the next thing to do for him. It looks like they want me to put 14, 15, and 16 on his back before I move any further, which are these little bitty buggies. That's 16, 15, or 14 and 15. So I think, because they're so tiny and indistinguishable, I'm going to do them one at a time. Which, I don't know how this is going to be. I guess we'll find out. Okay, so this one is... I've already forgotten. I've already forgotten which one this is. Help! Police. This is 16. So 16 goes on his back, on, for us, what is his back left pipe. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put a little bit of the gunk in there, and it's all going to be blowing to the right, it looks like. So we're going to take this and hope and pray. Yeah, wow, it actually slots right in. Very cool. Okay, give me a second. I need to look at something. Okay, cool. Next is going to be... Wait, that was 16. Yeah, 16's in the right place. 14 goes ahead of that. So 14 is going to be in the front one, I suppose. The front? I guess? Yeah, not quite the front, but the 2 down is how I'm going to say it. It's going to go 2 down. shave that down a little bit. Now, actually, the Horus Heresy books are at this point pretty old. They're finished up with the Siege of Terra. They finally finished it. They finished The End in the Death Part 3 very recently, and unfortunately, I missed out on the opportunity to get the book, so I'm gonna have to do the audiobook thingy at some point. This one, does this just go like so? Ow. Yeah, that just goes like so. And I don't like how loose that is. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little dab of this in there, which will hopefully... There we go. But, like I said, the book that introduced the Death Guard to me, the book that made me love the Death Guard, was Flight of the Eisenstein, which, love the name. I know that Eisenstein is supposed to be multiple different references. I forget what they all are, but I think it's a great name for a ship, first of all. But secondly, that entire story, I was enamored with as I was reading it, because it was like the 4th book I had read of 40K. So it was all still very fresh and new and novel. But they do a great job of introducing the Death Guard. They do a great job of introducing Mortarion and just kind of their mantra of how they work. I really like that book. And it's been, at this point, it's been many years since I've read it. I think this is 3 years removed from when I finished Flight of the Eisenstein. But the biggest thing about it, the biggest thing that I enjoyed most about it was how it introduced us to Nathaniel Garrow. So 10 and 11 are next. I think he was like one of the few Terran-born Death Guard that had obtained any level of like high position, right? And what I mean by that is that if you don't know about how the legions were created and then split up, before they were given over to their Primarchs, they obviously still existed, and they all kind of existed on Terra, on Earth, prior to leaving to find the Primarchs who had been scattered. And they all had different names, and their names were changed once they came under the stewardship of the Primarch progenitors, or whatever, the Gene Fathers. And the Death Guard were called the Dusk Raiders. How does this thing go on? Oh, it does go down. And so they had a slightly different battle mentality, and obviously hadn't gone through a lot of the suffering and experiences that the non-Terran-born Death Guard had gone through, who was made up of some of Mortarion's trusted companions from Barbarous, which was the how the heck is this supposed to go? Is it this? Yeah, it's that. Okay. I'm having a hard time talking and thinking at the same time. I apologize. But his trusted lieutenants and friends from Barbarous, which was the planet he landed on. And so he was kind of treated with a little bit of derision from the rest of the Death Guard, and he was very, like, by the book, was how they described him. They jokingly called him Straight Arrow Garrow. But the book is kind of about him realizing that things are not going right. And it's right before the Drop Site Massacre, which, if you know anything about 40K, if you know anything about the Horus Heresy, there it went, is that the Drop Site Massacre was like the big event where Horus purged all of the loyalist factions, all of the loyalist elements from the traitor forces that were with him at the time. So, if I recall properly, it was the Luna Wolves at the time, which became the Sons of Horus, which were his army. It was the Emperor's Children, because Fulgrim had fallen to chaos. It was the Death Guard, because Mortarion willingly joined. And it was the World Eaters, which were led by Angron, who also willingly joined. And they were on this compliance of a planet, or on a system called Istvan. And Garrow was supposed to go down with these allied forces because he was deemed untrustworthy. Oh, the big Scythe. He was deemed untrustworthy. And, what am I doing? Okay. But he had suffered a pretty severe injury and was unable to go. And he was put on a ship with another captain named Ignatius Grulgor, which is another great name, by the way, who was put on that ship specifically to watch Garrow and make sure that he got up to no funny business. And in the meantime, the way they were going to kill all these guys, the way they were going to purge the Loyalist forces, was that they were going to virus bomb the planet once everyone was down there. And that was a form of planetary purging that they had. They have this thing called Exterminatus, which is one of the memes outside of the 40k community of just purging a planet of all life, right? And it was called the Istvan Atrocity. And so once they made sure that all of the Allied forces were down there, they were going to turn all the flagships towards the planet and just drop a heavy payload of horrifically virulent chemicals that would basically cause everyone's insides to eat them. And he found out that this was happening and dealt with it on his ship, and then took a jet down to tell as many people as he could that this was happening. And one of them happened to be an Emperor's Children captain named Saul Tarvitz, who he had like a very deep fraternal bond with. And he was able to save a number of loyalists who were able to get to safety as the bombs dropped, but not all of them. And then those guys ended up having to fight in a small civil war for like 6 months before Horus finally had enough and did them all in. But the rest of the story of Flight of the Eisenstein is about Nathaniel Garrow's attempt on the Eisenstein to flee back to Terra so he could warn the Emperor of the betrayal of Horus. And I'm sorry if that came out really wordy. I'm not very good at talking and doing. I'm realizing that now. Why the heck did I get into streaming? Okay, but anyway. So Flight of the Eisenstein deals with that, and deals with their flight back to Terra. It deals with him finding out about a horrific demon called Lord of the Flies when it takes over one of his sergeants. And it's a really good book. It's also, I think, the first one that Jonathan Keeble narrates instead of Toby Longworth. So there was this weird dissonance for me, because I had heard Toby Longworth's voice for 3 straight books, and since he was the first voice of 40k, I heard he was the voice of 40k. So to suddenly hear someone else who ends up being a phenomenal narrator in his own right, but to hear someone else doing the voices for the characters, it just felt weird and wrong. But then he ended up becoming like the other voice of 40k. So I really can't argue too much with Jonathan Keeble being the voice for that. It's a good book. I would recommend that if you can get your hands on it, if you can find the audiobook, to listen to Flight of the Eisenstein. I think if they were going to make a movie of the Horus Heresy, that Flight of the Eisenstein would be a really good one, if not the best place to start, just because it's a fun story that's fairly self-contained. You don't need to know a whole lot of what else is going on. But it's a good that I like. Okay, what am I doing here? Where am I going? What's happening? Who are you? Get rid of as many of these mold lines as possible, because otherwise they're going to show up like mad when I start painting them, and it's going to drive me nuts because it's going to look terrible. It's going to be a gentle reminder that these are little plastic toys. Okay. Let's see if I can... I think that's about as good as it's going to get with my personal skill level. So the next thing that needs to happen... Wait, did I find another one? Ugh, there's good. Is that this is going to need to be placed... How is this going to be placed? Oh my goodness. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, so that's a really tight fit, but it's basically got to go in like that. So, wish me luck. Wait a minute. What have I done? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at it like, why is it reversed on this, on the instructions? What have I done? But no, I've got it. Okay, I just scared myself. Okay, so we're gonna get a whole mess of this up in here. A whole mess of it right there, and then a little bit on the nubbin. And then we're just gonna take this little bit. Let's see if I can slide it in there. Slide it in there, and then just... Jeez Louise, Games Workshop. Ingenious, but absolutely insane. But I made it work. There we go. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing to this guy. Now that he's all done, we're going to go ahead and drill out one of his feet so that I can stick him on a on the end of a chopstick, and then eventually, once I figure out what kind of base I want to do with him, I can put him on that. And I just realized he's not done. I forgot to put his Plague Spewer, or whatever it's called, his Plague Spewer Gauntlet on him. But that's okay. We're just going to go ahead and drill this out. Yeah, just go ahead and... Gosh, I love this thing so much. Get yourself a WoW stick. Take one of these, and I'll worry about that in a second. You can go back down here. Does this look good? Did I get this? Yes, I was prudent enough to get all that. So we're just going to go ahead and slap it on here. There we go. There we go. There we go. That should be enough liquid, I think. That's just going to go right on here. Right on here. I think that'll be good. Okay, but yeah, one of the things Flight of the Eisenstein is famous for is that Rogel Dorn happens to intercept them on their way back to Terra. Because things don't quite go the way it should, of course, otherwise the book would be boring, and they end up getting stranded out in the middle of nowhere because they can't stay in the warp and take that path home, because the warp is powering a whole bunch of dead traitors that happen to be on the ship that they managed to kill by detonating a virus bomb in the ship. So they have to leave the warp, and they're just kind of left stranded. And after a while, eventually they're hailed by the Phalanx, I believe, which is Rogel Dorn's flagship. And when he's told that Horus has rebelled, he backhands Garrow so hard he nearly kills him, and flies into like an uncontrollable rage. Which, this picture is terrible, guys. They've shown me the back of the heads, and both heads are hooded, to try and help me decide which head I want to place on the third Death Shroud. So I don't know if you can see that too well, but there's just... both of these heads are black. Or on the back. Here, let's see if I can... Can I... Both of them are just... That's the back of their heads. This helps no one. I don't know, man. Okay. But anyway. I'm just gonna have to look at the actual model. Because these are pieces 18 and 19, I believe. So let's see. 19... He's okay. I mean, he's alright. Actually, to be honest, he's kind of the cooler looking of the two. That is... Oh, he's got the central hole in that thing. Okay. The other one's a more typical, like, Mark III helm. So he's got kind of the grading going on. But the other one's got, like, the central eye in the middle of the helmet. So, I think... I don't know, man. Yeah, I think what's going to happen is I'm going to go with this one, because eventually, when I get my other... I'm either going to buy more of these Death Shroud, or I'm going to print the other ones. But if I buy the other ones, each one of these have, like, a Mark III helmet. So I'm going to save the Mark III helmets for the second set of Death Shroud that I eventually get myself. I don't want to snip my fingers. There goes that. Piece number 17. Where are you? Actually, wait a minute. Now I'm confused. Did I put the wrong... No, I didn't put the wrong body on him, did I? Because it looks like there were two bodies. Oh, 35, 35. No, I did not put the wrong body on him. The other body for just a Death Shroud Terminator number 2 doesn't have the mouth on it. Okay, so I am officially done with this piece. That sprue can go pound sand. This sprue, however... Oh wait, now I am confused. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna need 21, it looks like, which is from right here. I'm gonna need piece 21. Yeah, piece 21. You can go there. I'm going to need pieces 17, 20, and I think that's all the pressing ones I need. I already pulled the head off, so I don't need to remember the number for that one. Yeah, goodbye. And 17 is right here. Yeah, and I think unfortunately the Death Guardified, the Nurglified versions of the Death Shroud have kind of spoiled them for me. Or of the Cataphractii Terminator armor has spoiled it for me, because the regular Cataphractii Terminator armor I couldn't be more ambivalent to. Like, it's fine, it looks okay, but without the bloating, without the cloak, without the scythe, it's just kind of there, and not really my thing. And something else I think is kind of funny is, if I recall properly in the lore, and this is so incredibly minor a quibble, it does not matter. In the lore, and in the Horus Heresy, they show the Death Shroud wearing Tartaros Terminator armor because it's supposed to be more agile. It's supposed to be similarly armored and more agile in use. You can move around better in it, and which makes sense. And when you actually buy the models, because you can buy them from Forge World, which I guess has been condensed down to Warhammer's main website. But when you buy the Death Shroud Bodyguard from the Horus Heresy, they're clad in Tartaros armor, which is a lot rounder looking, which I guess is meant to make it look more streamlined, which is fair and fine. But that's the armor that they come in, right? But I guess in the 10,000 years since then, they've decided they like Cataphractii armor better, and so now the Death Shroud Bodyguard are wearing Cataphractii armor. In their Nurglified versions, which is fine. It's a big reason I love them. But to add to that, the Blightlord Terminator models, I used to own those. I ended up selling those too. They are all in Tartaros Terminator armor, and the actual Death Guards prefer in the Horus Heresy the Cataphractii armor. So you got the really thick and heavy armor, which is what most of their army wears, and then you've got like the speedy armor, which is what the Death Shroud wears. But when they made the product, they reversed them. So the Death Shroud now wear the Cataphractii armor, the slow armor, and the regular Blightlord Terminators wear the speedy armor. I remember looking at that, and I remember wondering, why don't I like the Horus Heresy Death Shroud as much as I like the regular ones, or the Death Guard, the Chaosified ones? And I was like, it had to be more than the fact that they were wearing cool capes and whatnot, and were a little more bloated. What is it? And then I noticed that the armors were off. And again, not a huge deal. And as you know, it's Games Workshop's IP. They can do with it what they want. But I just remember being disappointed and like, hey, wait a minute. You guys are dressed, you guys swapped outfits. You guys swapped outfits. No wonder I like one a whole lot more than the other. Okay. Obviously, my hands are getting tired because my ability to control this knife is dwindling rapidly. Thankfully, you know, knock on wood, it's not going to ever get to a point where I don't feel comfortable using it, and if it does, I'll stop before then. But I'm definitely struggling a little more to have really good control of the blade as I'm scraping and moving and cutting. Yeah, look at that guy. Look at that guy. Look at him. Okay. Go ahead and get these seams. Get the Tamiya extra thin. Now, honestly, I can't fault Tamiya too much because, and I have to sing their praises here. I've been using the same. I bought 2 bottles of Tamiya thin cement back when I first started, and they've lasted me a good long while. Actually, I take that back. I've bought 3, and that was because the first one I bought I accidentally knocked over, and I ended up losing half of it. So the fact that over 5 years I've needed a grand total of like 2.5 bottles of this stuff, with how much I've been assembling and painting models, just is absolutely amazing to me. Because I've put together quite a few, whether it's through my own stuff or whether it's through helping other people assemble models. I have used quite a bit of this extra thin cement. And, you know, part of the joy of it is that because it's fusing the plastic together, it doesn't fall apart as easily. It doesn't fall off as easily as if I were to use just regular super glue, which is what I started with. Okay, so this arm piece just fits right in there, don't it? What's going on here? Did you just get stuck? Interesting. Instead of falling off, it melted into the shoulder pad. Now, I know this is not at all relevant with what's going on, but Nintendo Direct, Nintendo Partner Direct? They did a thing today, and I'm realizing that I'm starting to hit an age where, like, I'm more excited for Nintendo Direct and Nintendo Partner Direct than I am for any other game release. It's just because I feel like Nintendo has kind of kept the mantra of what's fun versus what's cool. So I get great joy out of seeing what weird new crap they've got coming out. And I don't mean that derisively. I mean that in all earnest. What weird new stuff they've got coming out that's more novel and probably not even the type of game I'd want to play. But the fact is that they're experimenting with it and they're letting companies work with it and try to make these games that you wouldn't think as being like huge sellers because they know there's an audience out there. And I think that's neat. Because one of the biggest issues I've had as I've gotten older with like Sony and Xbox is they're worried about either having movie IPs or making the next big edgy thing. Oh, that needs to be shaved off. And I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way. They're not trying to do extreme for extreme's sake, but their games tend to be more like adult cinematic, mature cinematic. And yeah, that's a thing. It's fine. If people enjoy it, then they more power to them. I'm glad that they found their audience. But I'm not interested in that. I want doofy little games where I can do doofy little things. And I don't know how much of that really exists in the Xbox and Xbox and PlayStation lineups anymore. But then again, on the other extreme, I'm into Warhammer, so I have no idea where my interests lie at this point. I don't know what my boundaries are. All I know is that seeing Nintendo Direct is really cool. The fact that they are redoing Epic Mickey, which is a game that I never played, but I always thought was neat. I thought that was really cool. I saw someone do a side-by-side comparison. They completely redid the trailer. They didn't just upscale it. Like, all the animations are new and have been given subtle changes, and the game looks beautiful. So I thought that was really freaking cool. There were some other games today that I saw, like Crab Souls was kind of neat. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If not, then they made a crab game, a hermit crab game, that has the same mechanics as like Dark Souls, and that to me is incredibly funny and incredibly neat. And I think there were some other ones on there that I was interested in, or I thought were really cool, but I don't remember them because I'm too busy putting together a guy's foot. making sure that I have shaved off just enough of the mold lines on the back of his legs that they're not super noticeable when I put them all together. Hey Arya, how's it going? You got here just in time for me to leave. It's 6 o'clock, which means it's about dinner time for me. But yeah, I got my death shrouds, and I'm putting them together now, and I'm really excited because I've mentioned it a couple times already, but it's worth mentioning again. I got an actual set of them pre-built as part of a lot back when I was first collecting into the armies, and I was always disappointed with that paint job. You just got home and Fulgrim was at your door. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. You've had a good day. I've had a pretty good day. I didn't get as much studying done as I wanted to because I found out being downstairs is not a good way to not be distracted. But I pulled the trigger and I bought myself a new gaming laptop. It's about as top of the line as you can get without spending like $3,000. Shall you do an unboxing during the next art stream? Yes. I don't know if I'm going to be able to catch it, and I find that disappointing, but I promise you I'm going to watch it as soon as I can. Because I believe I have Baldur's Gate this evening. I currently have an Asus TUF 15, which you know, pretty decent budget line gaming. You're not streaming tonight? Oh, cool. Then yeah, the next time I will definitely try and catch it. Hey Red, how's it going? You got here? What's happening? I've had like one streamer all night, and now there's five, or one viewer all night. Now there's like 5 of you guys. But yeah, I'm actually about to go. It's 6 o'clock where I am, so I need to start heading off to eat dinner. But yeah, if you do it Friday, I should be able to join you then, because Friday, my wife has her D&D game, and I'm kind of left with nothing, which is fine. I want her to enjoy her D&D game. She's had that going on for forever. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about, got a new computer. It's the newer iteration of the Asus TUF 15. The version I had was an AMD core, and it was from 2020. And I did some research while I was looking at this new one, at this new deal. I did some research and found out that the 2020 model of the Asus TUF is apparently dog shit. And was very well-roundedly reviled by the people who bought it and reviewed it because of various reasons, including terrible heating, overpriced materials on it. And I knew none of this, so I thought it was an absolute banger of a machine. And other than a period where the drivers weren't functioning properly and every game had stupid, ridiculous slowdown, it's always run like a charm for me. So when I saw that the new one had come out and was on sale, I did some more research and found out that apparently the new Asus TUF, the 2023 model, is one of the best budget gaming laptops you can get. And a store near me that's actually up in Northern Virginia, where I used to be from. Where's the rest of his arm? I've lost the rest of his arm. Oh, I didn't put it on him as a cape needed. They were selling it for under $1,000, but it has a GTX 4070. It's got a 12th generation i7, 16 gigs of RAM, expandable up, MSI. Yeah, MSI is great. You got your ice hockey jerseys coming next week. Heck yeah! I have a couple of ice hockey jerseys. I used to be a fan of the Carolina Hurricanes before they were good. Like, I found out about them right after they won the Stanley Cup, because my girlfriend at the time was a fan, and I slowly kind of got into it too and started enjoying it. And as I started following them more carefully, they steadily declined and became worse and worse and worse. And then I stopped watching hockey. And then I still kind of halfway pay attention to them, because I think I still follow them on Facebook, back when you could follow pages like that. And I've noticed that they hired Rod Brindamore as their coach, and ever since they did that, they've been winning more. A plain white and a Wally World. That's really cool. Iron Within, Iron Without. Hello. How's it going? I'm so sad that I gotta get going soon. Very soon, within the next few minutes soon. I'm trying to get these guys... It's dinner time, and I need to get going. But, I love that you just... That's the way you've decided you want to greet me. Is giving me crap about being an Imperial Fist player. Well, today I've got your number because I'm not making Imperial Fists. I forgot to update my thing. I am working on some Death Shroud bodyguards for my Death Guard army. Because these are models I've wanted for a while. But yeah, I used to have an MSI, and other than the screen hinge being crappy, it was a wonderful machine. And I actually ended up giving it to a friend who was not really in a situation economically to purchase a laptop. And so I just gave it to him, was like, I don't really need it. I'm not going to use it. Here, you can have it. And it's just powerful enough for him to play certain games. But beyond that, it's really showing its age. And I think to give an idea, it's got like a 256 gig solid state drive where the operating system is couched in, and then it's just got a 1 terabyte hard disk drive, which is where the rest of the data is coming from, which actually explains the performance issues he had with Darktide. Cool. But anyway, I got an Asus TUF TUF back during the pandemic to help with some video editing I was doing. And again, I love the computer. I thought it was great and had no problems with it. It still works wonderfully today. But I saw this one and found out that apparently the 2020 model that I have is widely considered to be the worst model they've ever put out. And that the 2023 model, the one I purchased, is one of the best that they've put out. Performance-wise, temperature-wise, all that fun stuff. And again, it's got a near top-of-the-line graphics card and a near top-of-the-line processor for what I can get. And it's just like, well, at that price, I can't say no. So I went ahead and purchased it, and it should be here Friday or Saturday. And that makes me very happy. And the gentleman who owns my previous computer, my MSI, is going to eventually buy my current Asus TUF from me. And that will help me recoup even some more expenses. So I'm basically spending $600 to get a $1,500 laptop. And I did a little more research, and I found out that apparently, I can't remember his name, Stinky... Are Stinky Scythe men a Nurgle thing? They are very much a Nurgle thing. Hello, I'm really sorry, I'm gonna mess this name up. Retail? I'm really sorry. Retelli? I really ruined that. I tried. Retail, very nice. But yes, they are definitely a Nurgle thing. These are the Death Guard. These are the Space Marine Legion that fell to chaos during the Horus Heresy. And so they have all sorts of rot. Okay, I've already forgotten what they were. I'm so sorry. My brain is potato because I've been spending the days studying for a computer certification thing. Michelle the Unicorn, nice to see you. Nurgles, yeah, that's about right. Heresy detected. They're going to be a lot of fun to kill. But yeah, so these are models I've wanted for a very long time. And I finally had an excuse to get them, so I did. Why are you not sticking? Stay down. So, like, I've gotten 2 of them done. Ugh. I got these 2 guys set up and ready. So tired of fighting Death Guard, my guy. I just haven't seen the sides before. I owned a bunch of Death Guard a while ago, but they weren't painted by me. And I wanted to paint them, so I sold them. And I wasn't having fun playing them at the time, so I sold them. And now I'm in a position where A, my painting skills are considerably better, but B, I want to play them again. I bought a combat patrol. Up until earlier this year, I was a high school teacher. Mortarion was a fun summer project. He's such a cool model. Oh, speaking of, I'm going to take this moment to brag a little bit, since I got to get going soon, but, what do you mean working on it? You should be able to, there we go. I painted up, Typhus. I got a combat patrol because I worked as a high school teacher up until very, very recently, and one of the things I wanted to do was help the kids be able to play Warhammer without having to spend an arm and a leg. So I used a bunch of combat patrols I did have and bought a couple more, and one of them was rebuying the Death Guard. And I've become a much better painter since the first time I painted them, so I wanted to do them justice, and I found this amazing tutorial for doing like a high contrast version of the Death Guard armor, specifically Typhus. And I was so inspired by how good that model looked that I went back and redid my Mortarion, and now I'm going to do these guys in this same style. And to give you an example of it, bam! There's my Typhus. This is what my Typhus looks like. And I just love how it looks. I love just the kind of detail that oozes out of it because of that. And I'm excited to eventually do more in this same style. I got into 40k shortly after 10th edition dropped, and my bestie who taught me plays Chaos Space Marines, Death Guard. He started with Chaos Space Marine because my fashion of choice was outlandishly overpowered, and he switched to Death Guard to counter. Oof. Yeah. Yeah, Typhus's helmet looks great, and yeah, hey Shrek Levertoes, how's it going? I did this as a repaint. I painted Typhus a long time ago, and it didn't look this good, but I followed, his name is Phelan Miniatures. It's actually, let me see if I can put it here, so you can see how good he is. He has a YouTube channel where he did his own version of the high contrast Typhus, and I was like, I gotta copy this. And his is drop dead gorgeous. If you think mine is good, mine pales in comparison to his. I'm doing okay. I actually need to get going in a few minutes because it's about dinner time for me. I had to put up my offense output to counter his counter, so we hit this stupid arms race. Eventually decided to restart our crusade. I mean, that's what it sounds like it's good for, right? So, Shrek Levertoes, what I'm doing right now is I've been wanting to paint these models since I first got into Warhammer and found out about them. So I finally bought them because I passed a certification test that I really thought I was going to fail, and decided to reward myself. Non-metallic metal copper is one of the hardest ones, so props to me. Thank you. It was a lot of orange. It was a lot more orange than I would have expected. Every streamer you join instantly leaves. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. But I had also purchased a Mortarion. He was my first big model, and I wanted to kind of paint him up to this same style. So I redid his copper and his green armor, and I did a little bit of his robe. And so this is my Mortarion right now. And it's just like, I love how these look. Just like my dude. I love how these look. And so I want to do the Death Shroud in the same style, and I really want to rebuild my Death Guard army now that I feel like my skill level is good enough to like really make these guys sing, you know what I mean? So that's my goal. And I mean, the thing is I'm not, like I've said, I'm not even really primarily a Death Guard player. My first army was Tau. That didn't go well. And my second army was Imperial Fists. So, that's actually where I'm working from. And, Death Guard, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm proud. I like my work. I think I do good work, too. But, I'm proud of how my Imperial Fists look. I actually recently just did Torgaradon, in the same style. I used kinda the, you play Ultramarines and Tau, and you started 7 months ago. I love hearing how many of you guys who come in here say, I just started, because that means Warhammer's influence is growing, and I love the fact that there are more people who are getting to enjoy this crazy game. That's been like my favorite thing so far. I showed my friend your Torgaradon, he was very impressed. Thank you. Yeah, actually, you know what, I'm gonna show off my Torgaradon. Do I have him on here? I haven't put him on here. I'm gonna have to go to my Instagram to find my Torgaradon. My brain died. I'm sorry, I was mid-thought. I kind of did him in the same style. He's high contrast, but I used Jose da Vinci's high contrast yellow method to do it. So there he is. There's no metallic paint on this guy. He's all non-metallic metal. I love how he looks because, you know, you can do a straight yellow for the Imperial Fists, which is great in itself, and that's what I've done for most of them, but I really wanted the rest of it to really show up. I wanted my leaders to really pop on the tabletop, and so that was kind of the goal there. Thank you. I appreciate the flattery. But once you kind of learn the blending skill with a very tiny brush and a lot of patience, it's not as difficult as it seems. It's just a lot of patience and a lot of control. And oh god, I don't remember which way this goes on him. Oh, it's all in the front. Okay, so this goes right here like so. And so, should join Benry's Discord and check out the other stuff folks have done. Yeah, if you guys think I'm good, there's a lot of really good paint work on there. There's a lot of, I don't have a ton of people on my Discord because I'm very, very small time, like, you know, very, very, very small time. But I have a Discord that's on my Twitch channel, and the whole point of it is for people to be able to drop in their own miniatures and just kind of show them off. Okay, so you're saying that you suck and you always will, and don't say it's all practice. It is. I have spent an inordinate amount of time trying to get good at this. Super rad. I'm quite envious. I'm thankful that I don't prefer that visual style because that's something I'd be agonizing over trying to match. That's absolutely fair. But I'm not sure if that's going to work, Shrek Lover Toes. Let me see if I can get to there for you. I don't know how to make links pop up in here. This Twitch channel is very barren because I don't know what I'm doing. No, that can go away. There it is, Discord. Copy link address. I throw it in here. Boom. That should work. Far more Corsairs. Oh, you're an Eldar player. You and Arya Silverfire have something in common. But yeah, I'm dead serious when I say this. I didn't start this good. I actually remember a long time ago when I was but a wee little tater tot. I tried to paint a Robotech model. And I did such a terrible job. I've been in the Better Heart for 20 years, and my very first models look like poop. It's fair. 30 Corsairs. Good lord. You must love you some Corsairs. But I tried to paint a Robotech model that I had bought, and it came out looking so bad that I basically decided that miniature painting wasn't for me. And I never thought I could do it. But I followed some YouTubers that I liked, and oh dear, I didn't bother trimming this down. And I started watching, where's my knife? I started watching some YouTubers, and they started having these tutorials to try and make your minis look better. And they were basic things, like Midwinter Minis has some great tutorials on speed painting without using speed paints, and just learning some basic fundamentals of like using how to use washes properly, how to dry brush properly. And watching that stuff and just kind of continuing to fall down that rabbit hole and just having way too much dedication to this is the only reason why my stuff could be considered good. Is just countless hours of drill and kill with it. Oops. Let's see. My best friend has done some competition winning paint jobs, so he's thankfully taught you a lot. That's really cool. You're scared of painting yours? The best part about painting these is that I understand being worried and being concerned, but you know what? If you don't end up liking how they look, then you can just do them again. You can just put them in IPA, and they'll eventually, you know, clean off, and you'll be fine. That's been one of the biggest saving graces for me. Actually, let's see. Yeah, so actually, here's a great example. My husband's an artist, but he teaches like a French chef. Oh dear. Yeah, the rubbing alcohol. Don't get in beer, please. In all seriousness, guys, I just posted it recently in the Discord. Hey, Shrek Lover Shows. Hey, Reptile. Under Showcase. Is it under Showcase? No, it's in the general, right above where a lot of you guys joined. 2 videos by Midwinter Minis does a great job of just introducing the fundamentals. I'm not super smart. I've been trying to put hero levels of detail into all 19 Corsairs. get the paint on them and then do that later. But yeah, like here, I've painted Torgarodon like 5 times because I keep wanting to improve him. So like here is my original Torgarodon. This is what Torgarodon first looked like when I first painted him, and I ended up selling this one eventually, before buying another one and getting a chance to redo him. But I mean, you can see like this one's not bad. It's pretty good, but there's definitely a huge detail gap between what you just saw and what this guy looks like, right? So it's all about, you know, progress. You're gonna get better as long as you keep trying. I know it feels like it. Okay, so I'm gonna finish doing this because at this point I realize I don't know what time it is. It's almost 6:20. I gotta get going soon. I think I'm holding up my wife from being able to eat her dinner, but I think she's gonna be happy when she finds out that I don't have Baldur's Gate with my other friends and I can play Baldur's Gate with her this evening. So that'll be good. Okay, so this next one. You sent your oh yeah, it's perfectly fine. Finishing your heads, then you'll be basing them. Oh, check this. I conned my friend to make me some gunslinger hats for my Corsairs. He went far and above with this design. I can't wait to see these guys. I really can't. That, like, the showcase section of the Discord is specifically for you guys to spam with your pieces. Like, that's the whole point. It's not there for me to feel good about my art and have you guys ooh and ah what I make. Even though I do post my stuff there, it is purely there for you guys to show off your stuff and be happy. Hey, Mommy Dova, good to see you. I feel bad saying this, but I'm about to leave. You get home around the same time that I eat dinner. Okay, so, nope, I need to do that too. I think it's gonna end up being, yeah, I'll just screw that down in there. By the way, guys, if you have any thoughts about drilling your barrels, I'm just going to the corner store for some milk, I promise. If you have any ideas for wanting to drill your barrels, they have what's called a pin vise, which is like a little handheld drill. And, one moment, I've got one. It's fine for what it is. It's just this thing. And, you can do that, but it's not great. I honestly suggest you get yourself a WoW stick. You can't make me drill my gun barrels. I don't want to make you drill your gun barrels. This is purely if you want to. The WoW stick is a low speed, high torque pin drill, and it does some amazing work. Check this out. I put a hole in his foot, and it's just like, oh, look at that! It's not gonna slip. It's not gonna hurt me. And you just do that for a bit, and then pull that back out, and look at that. I got a hole in his foot. I love it, and he's biting into my finger because he's got spikes. Yeah, like I said, this is purely for preference. If you enjoy, yeah, the space elves, they do not have barrels to drill. They use those like micro-sized shurikens to make everyone's lives miserable. There we go. That's another army I want to start, by the way. I really want to do a combat patrol of the Eldar. They're cool. I'd love to have a combat patrol of each army, to be completely honest. There we go. I think I'm just going to have to hold off on putting the little smoky bits on him. Heretics abound. I know, it can feel that way. But I mean, I also want to do like 4 different chapters of Space Marine, so... I'm just throwing it out there for everyone. And actually, yesterday, I was working on doing some non-metallic metal gold for Celestine and her lovely lady. You chose Eldari specifically because mechs piloted by ghosts are awesome. Yes, they are. I really like the Eldari aesthetic. So this is about how far I got with doing the non-metallic metal gold on one of the Gemini Superia. But eventually she's going to be really bright and shiny. Yeah, the Wraiths are so freaking cool. And also, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device, had the great meme of Sly Marbo. Be classed as a heretic. Yeah, right. If you guys have seen if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device's video on Sly Marbo, but I love that video so much that I went out on eBay and I found myself a friend. Yeah, his only vocalization is just an extended, re-looped version of the Dawn of War scream, and that's amazing. But I have my own, and it's the original one, and this makes me so darn happy. And actually, I changed some things on my stream now, so I don't know how to trigger them on the stream. But whenever there's a raid, it's now the part where he jumps out of the sky and crashes down on the one Drukhari. It took you forever to realize that Marbo is an anagram of Rambo, and his first name, Sly, is the nickname for Sylvester Stallone, who played Rambo. But yeah, I don't have a guardsman army. I just really wanted this model, who I will also be repainting. But my favorite thing about it is that whenever we play, my buddies and I, we take this model out and we just hide it on the map while the other person is taking their turn, and we play a mini game of Where's Sly Marbo. Yeah, the description for Sly Marbo is incredible. It's one of my favorite things. I don't think I have much else to show off because I need to get going. I keep saying I need to get going, but it's the truth. I do need to get going. I do appreciate everyone for coming in and making the last like 20 minutes or so a lot more sociable, because I've just kind of been rambling incoherently to myself for about an hour and a half. But let's see if there are any other super cool painters that are doing things now. Do we got anyone? Oh, we got Studio J7 and we got Malaga War Games. I think we're gonna send you... Oh, they're doing 40k Eldar. So I think that's where we're gonna send you guys. We're gonna head on over to /... Nope, that's not a / raid. Studio J7. That should be it. Hey, Snow Twig, you got here right as I'm leaving. I'm sorry, buddy. I need to go eat dinner, though. I guess the good news is... Oh, no, I won't be able to stream... Will I be able to stream tomorrow? I should be able to... No, I won't be able to stream tomorrow. I've got a makerspace to go to. So, I will see you guys later. Have a great rest of your day. And hopefully I will see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.